Okay, great. Okay, today is May 6th. It's now 2 p.m. Thank you for your participation. You will participate in this task as a team, and I will be recording this session. I just gave you your instruction sheet that you're going to read along with me. I gave you an envelope, and as well as a team answer sheet. Don't look at your envelopes yet. You and your two teammates will solve a written murder mystery using the clues provided. Please do not look at any of the clues yet. Wait until I read the instructions and then take a look at your clues. After the instructions, you'll be given 5 minutes to read the clues quietly to yourself. When prompted, you may begin to discuss the mystery, your clues, and your ideas in order to reach a consensus-driven solution. The session will continue until you believe you have the correct answers as a team. When you believe you have the correct answers as a team, write down who you believe the murderer is, what the weapon was used, the time of the murder, the place of the murder, and the motive for the murder. There is only one correct response for each of the 5 parts of the solution. A sheet of paper and pencil has been provided so you could write down your team's answers. When finished, submit the sheet of paper with your team's answers to me, Amy, your proctor. Your team must come to a consensus on each of the 5 parts of the solution. Like, you may not turn in a solution or part of the solution without the rest of the team agreeing on it. Here are the rules. Once prompted, during the first 5 minutes, read your clues in silence and do not share any information with your other group members. Do not exchange your clues with your teammates. For example, you are not allowed to hand your clues to one another or show your clues to your teammates. Furthermore, you're not allowed to walk around the table or switch seats in order to see each other's clues. The only way to share information about your clues is through verbal discussion with your group. So participants may not rewrite other people's clues. Clues must be only verbally shared. Don't look at each other's clues. After the first 5 minutes is up, you will be prompted to begin discussions. If you have any questions, raise your hand and me, Amy, your proctor, will come to you. Before we begin, is there any questions?
So, like, you can verbalize what your clue is to the other teammates.
Absolutely.
But you can't, like, the other person can't write down what your clue
Right, and you can't give your clue.
Right.
So
okay.
everything's going to be done by you reading your clues, you read your clues, you read your clues, and then you can talk about amongst yourselves. But I'm going to give you 5 minutes now for you to open your envelopes and read your clues. So you could do that now, and I'll tell you when the 5 minutes is up.
When you say verbalize, we can't just like read the clue to them, could we?
Oh, you can read yeah.
Oh, you can just read it?
Just everything has to be verbal.
Okay.
So I'll tell you when 5 minutes is up.
I have a question. Or are we allowed to ask questions?
Okay.
So,
I don't know.
so we have clues, and everybody else has clues about the same case.
Yeah.
Okay. So our clues are like kind of vague, but I guess the two people have clues that will make it the picture comes a whole. Is that correct, or?
Yes.
So we can't put them in order, but we can talk verbally.
Right.
Okay.
You could talk about your clues. You just can't show them your clues or write down other people's clues.
Yeah. So we have to put it in piece by piece without anything.
Just with
by
your
verbal.
mouth.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, time. Okay, you can begin.
You want to start it off, or you know?
Sure.
Okay.
So should I just like read what my clues are, I guess?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay,
bring 'em up.
so when he was discovered dead, Mr. Kelly had a bullet hole in his thigh and a knife wound in his back. So maybe that like narrows down the weapons. And the elevator man saw Mr. Kelly's wife go to Mr. Scott's apartment at 11:30 p.m. Miss Smith saw Mr. Kelly go to Mr. Jones's apartment building at 11:55 p.m. The elevator man went off duty at 12:30 a.m. Mr. Kelly's wife disappeared after the murder. Mr. Kelly's blood stains were found in Mr. Scott's car. A knife with Mr. Kelly's blood on it was found in Miss Smith's yard. Mr. Kelly had destroyed Mr. Jones's business by stealing all of his customers. Mr. Kelly's body was found in the park.
Jeez.
Do you want to just read mine out next?
Yeah.
Okay. So it said, the first one, the police were unable to locate Mr. Scott after the murder. The elevator man saw Mr. Kelly go to Mr. Scott's room at 12:25 in the morning. And when the elevator saw Mr. Kelly was bleeding slightly, but he didn't seem too badly hurt. Miss Smith said that nobody left the apartment building between 12:25 a.m. and 12:45 a.m. Then I found in Mrs. Smith's yard had Mr. Scott's fingerprints on it. And then Mr. Kelly's bloodstains were found on the carpet in the hall outside Mr. Jones's apartment. When the police tried to locate Mr. Jones after the murder, they discovered that he had disappeared. And Mr. Jones had told Mr. Kelly that he was going to kill him. And the elevator operator said that Mr. Kelly's wife frequently left the building with Mr. Scott.
The elevator man said that Mrs. Smith was in the lobby of the apartment of the building when he went off duty. Miss Smith often followed Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly has been dead for an hour when his body was found, according to the medical expert working with police. It was obvious that the condition of Mr. Kelly's body that it has been dragged for a long distance. Mr. Jones shot an intruder in his apartment building at 12 a.m. The elevator operator reported to the police that he saw Mr. Kelly at 12:15 a.m. The bullet taken from Mr. Kelly's thigh matched the gun owned by Mr. Jones. Only one bullet has been fired from Mr. Jones's gun. Mr. Kelly's body was found at 1:30 a.m.
Okay. So,
So then we know the time, right? Because it was an hour. So like he had already been dead for an hour after it was found, right?
Yeah,
So what time did they find the body?
they found the body at 1:30 a.m.
So he was killed at 12:30 a.m.
That was
well, I think the weapon was the knife. Because it sounds like only
he
one.
was bleeding, like, I think you're...
It said Mr. Kelly was bleeding slightly, but he didn't seem too badly hurt. And it says he had shot in the leg.
He shot in the thigh, yeah.
Thigh,
Yeah.
okay.
And I think Mr. Jones shot him.
And that was only one shot.
There was one bullet that was fired from his gun.
Right.
I feel like there was more people involved with the murder.
Mhm.
He went to Mr. Scott's apartment, and they found a knife.
There's a few things going on.
Mhm.
Like, apparently, Mr. Kelly's wife frequently left the building with Mr. Scott. And the knife found in Miss Smith's yard had Mr. Scott's fingerprints on it,
Yeah,
so it kind of makes me think.
kind of was like a setup, cause Mr. Jones, he said he ruined his business or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he tried to shoot him, but then I guess he went to Mr. Scott's apartment. I guess trying to get away.
Mm-hmm. So I think the one. The bloodstains on the carpet in the hall outside Mr. Jones' apartment were just from the ones when he shot him in the thigh.
And then bloodstains were found in Mr. Scott's car.
Mr. Scott's
also.
car. Well, that was, I assume, like, they dragged his body and put him in the car, maybe?
But then he was
His
found
body was found at
in the
1:30.
park, I think, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm inclined to say that the gun's not the weapon, but
The gun wounded him, I guess.
yeah, the gun wounded him. But
Mm-hmm.
then, like, the elevator man said that Mr. Kelly was bleeding slightly, but he didn't seem too badly hurt.
When was that? Or did it say?
Well, the elevator man went off at 12:30,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So he saw Mr. Kelly go into Mr. Scott's room at 12:25. So I assume that'll happen in like the same time frame.
Right.
So I'm guessing that getting shot in the thigh was before that,
Mhm.
and he went to Mr. Scott's room.
Yeah, it said his body was dragged for a long distance and the body's
Mhm.
in this body
Mhm.
condition.
Mm-hmm.
The elevator operator reported to the police that he saw Mr. Kelly at 12:15 a.m.
Okay.
So I just gotta take note of times.
So he probably got killed like 12:30 a.m. -ish?
Maybe.
Well,
Oh.
Mr. Jones shot an intruder at 12 a.m. and
Yep. Okay.
and he was seen at 12:15.
Mhm.
Okay. And then Miss Smith said that nobody left the apartment building. The apartment building being Mr. Scott's room, I think, until from 12:25 to 12:45. So I'm guessing the place. I'm thinking Mr. Scott's room is the place
Yeah.
Mhm.
where he was murdered. I think he was
They said
stabbed.
the elevator man said that Miss Smith was in the lobby of the apartment building when he went off duty, and Miss Smith often followed Mr. Kelly.
Hmm.
So we know that the bullet taken from his thigh was matches Mr. Jones' gun, and Mr. Jones shot an intruder in his apartment building, and only one bullet was fired from his gun.
Okay.
So he was, I guess he was wounded by Mr. Jones, and then there was fingerprints on the knife from Mr. Scott.
Yep.
And he was in,
Mr. Scott's room.
yeah, do they tell the time or?
Yeah, it says Miss Smith said nobody left the apartment building between 12:25 a.m. and 12:45 a.m.
12:25.
So I'm guessing that like around that time maybe when he was killed, and then they dragged his body a long distance from the car, took him to the park maybe.
Yeah. Mr. Kelly has been dead for an hour.
For an hour?
Yeah, Mr. Kelly has been dead for 1 hour when his body was found, according to the medical expert. So his body was found at 1:30. So he was killed at 12:30.
12:30.
Yeah.
So
And he went into Mr. Scott's room at 12:25.
okay, so he had to be killed in Mr. Scott's room then.
I think the place is, so do we want to put that down?
Wait, but then his wife went to Mr. Scott's apartment also at 11:30. So what did she do at like between that time? Did she like
Wait,
leave?
At
His wife?
11:30 or?
Mr. Kelly's wife went to Mr. Scott's apartment at 11:30 p.m. So like, what was she doing there during that time?
Well, the elevator operator says that Mr. Kelly's wife frequently left the building with Mr. Scott. Someone was thinking that maybe there was something going on there.
Yeah, it could be, an affair or something. So we know Mr. Jones
Maybe
shot
it's like Mr. Scott's room, but like somebody else killed him.
That's a
Mm.
possibility. I mean, it depends. Like we already ruled out the gun, right?
Yeah.
There's
more or
fingerprints
less.
on the knife too, from
Is
Mr.
it?
Scott.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it says that Miss Scott's knife found Miss Scott's yard had Mr. Scott's fingerprints on it. Doesn't necessarily mean that he killed him, but
Wait, Miss Scott's yard or
yeah, it says the knife was found in Miss Scott's yard,
Mm-hmm.
and that it had Mr. Scott's fingerprints on it.
wait, so who's Miss Smith?
Miss Smith is the lady that like follows him, right? So she's
Yeah.
like in the lobby,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I don't know exactly how she's involved. entirely. I only have like that one that mentions it. Oh yeah, Miss Smith said that nobody left the apartment. Miss Smith had found the knife in her yard, I guess.
Oh, Miss Smith found the knife in her yard.
Well, it just says the knife found in Miss Smith's yard had Mr. Scott's fingerprints on it. I guess she found it there, but it doesn't specifically say that she found it. It says when the police tried to locate Mr. Jones after the murder, they discovered that he had disappeared. I don't know.
So he was definitely murdered at 12:30 because his body has been dead for 1 hour.
Okay,
He's been
so
dead
let's
for
put
1 hour.
So 12:30 a.m.
It's also when the elevator man went off duty, so maybe that's why like he didn't see it.
Okay. And only one bullet survived from the gun, and that was in his thigh. Thinking, Mr.
He was shot by Mr. Jones, but he wasn't killed because the elevator man saw him bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
Like a thigh wound, I guess wouldn't be too serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So like with only one bullet shot from the gun, I guess that definitely means the gun wasn't necessarily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't the weapon
Did
that
it?
killed him. She saw an intruder. 12. So he was shot at 12 a.m. The elevator man saw him at 12:15. He went to Mr. Scott's at 12:25 until 12:45. So that means he was killed.
Yeah, and Mr.
At 12. Well, since he died at 12:30, I think it's
He was killed.
in Mr. Scott's room.
Yeah,
I think
but
so.
he was
Yeah.
killed. Well, yeah, he has to be killed in Mr. Scott's room because that's who said 12:25 to 12:45.
Right here, it says Miss Smith said that nobody left the apartment building between 12:25 and 12:45 a.m.
So that's a fact then. Like no one
Yeah,
left.
'cause-
So he was killed in the room.
As long as Miss Smith is believable.
Yeah. I'd say that's the place of the murder. Is there what are your facts again? Your clue?
All of them. Mr. Kelly's body was found in the park. When he was discovered dead, Mr. Kelly had a bullet hole in his thigh and knife wound in his back. The elevator man saw Mr. Kelly's wife go to Mr. Scott's apartment at 11:30 p.m. The elevator man went off duty at 12:30 a.m. Miss Smith saw Mr. Kelly go to Mr. Jones's apartment building at 11:55 p.m. Mr. Kelly's wife disappeared after the murder. Mr. Kelly's bloodstains were found in Mr. Scott's car. A knife with Mr. Kelly's blood on it was found in Miss Smith's yard. Mr. Kelly had destroyed Mr. Jones's business by stealing all of his customers.
Wait, so Miss Smith goes into Mr. Jones's apartment building at 12:55, and then the knife is found in her backyard. So why would she go into Mr. Jones at 12:55? The elevator man gets off duty at 12:30 as soon as he dies.
Maybe. Oh, wait, was it Miss Smith that went up into his room? Who was it?
Well, Miss Smith saw Mr. Kelly go to Mr. Jones's apartment at 11:55 p.m.
Okay.
And then, and why was the knife found in
Her
her
yard.
yard?
Wait, she saw Mr. Kelly going into
Mr. Jones's apartment 11:55 p.m.
Oh, at 11:55 p.m.
Okay.
Oh, so he goes into the apartment 5 minutes before Mr. Jones shot an intruder.
Oh, okay, so
In
that
his
so he
apartment
was
building.
shot.
Yeah, so he
Yeah.
definitely shot. Mr. Jones shot an intruder in his apartment building at 12 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what about whose wife? One of yours mentioned.
Mr. Kelly's wife disappeared after the murder.
Okay. Because I'm thinking Mr. Kelly's wife
So Mr. Jones disappears, Mr. Kelly, his wife disappears,
and Mr. Scott. Police weren't able to locate Mr. Scott after the murder.
and he disappears too.
I'm thinking Mr. Scott and
So- yeah,
Mr.
so-
Kelly's wife.
So what's the
were
correlation between them? So I would say that,
They probably had.
and the correlation between Mr. Jones is that he destroyed his
Yeah.
business, so he went for vengeance.
But he wasn't the murderer.
He was-
because
yeah.
it was just the-
I guess he
think he-
attempted.
Shot him in the thigh.
Who did we think had like relations? Like were going out with each other?
I
Or,
think
like, they met
Mr.
with-
Kelly's wife and Mr. Scott
Okay.
were
What are
the
your
ones.
facts about Mrs. Smith again? I'm trying to figure out what does she have to do with it.
Okay.
She gives times, like,
Yeah, she was like the witness. She was, because you said she was in the lobby.
and she followed them.
Mm-hmm. And just said Miss Smith had said that nobody left the apartment building.
So do you think she's like the lobbyist? Because she was in the lobby of the apartment building when he went off. Oh, when the elevator man went off duty at 12:30,
Mm-hmm.
and she was in the lobby. So she was in the lobby at 12:30.
She was in the lobby at 12:30. So that means
So
she couldn't.
have-
She couldn't have killed him.
No, she couldn't have killed him because he was killed at 12:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's ruled out.
Okay.
So she's definitely not the killer.
So it's not Mr. Jones, not Miss Smith.
No, it's not Mr. Jones. It's not Miss
Yeah.
Smith. So the last two people are left is his wife and Scott.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking the murderer was Mr. Scott.
That's what I'm.
The weapon
Yeah.
was the knife.
Mm-hmm.
The place was his room. Mr.
Yeah, because
Scott's
there's only
room.
two weapons, and he was found killed with
And I
a
think
knife wound and a bullet.
His blood stains were found in Mr. Scott's car.
Mhm. And I think the motive had something to do with Mr. Kelly's wife and Mr. Scott being together. Maybe he went up to his room to like, you know, enact revenge or something,
Yeah.
and it didn't go exactly the way he planned
But he got shot
in the thigh.
in the thigh, so why would he go up to his room?
True.
Maybe he was trying to seek help from Mr. Scott, but then he saw,
He was stunned in the back, right?
Yeah.
yeah, he stabbed him in the back.
So he probably didn't see it coming. Maybe all three of them were like working together or something. Because all three of them disappeared
Yeah.
afterwards in some way. I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Jones, her wife, and Mr. Scott.
I think it said that there's only one right answer.
Well, I'm saying like Mr. Scott killed him. Like I think he's the one that
Yeah.
stabbed
Yeah.
him. But I think the motive was that they were gonna like.
Well, we know Mr. Jones' motive,
Mm-hmm.
to take vengeance on whatever he destroyed or something.
Mm-hmm.
The wife's motive, not too sure. Mr. Scott's motive, I'm not too sure, so. There seems a correlation between those two though, so.
Mm-hmm.
What are your facts again?
Mine?
Not yours.
Oh, mine? Okay.
Yeah.
So the police were unable to locate Mr. Scott after the murder. The elevator man saw Mr. Kelly go to Mr. Scott's room at 12:25. The elevator man saw Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kelly was bleeding slightly, but he did not seem too badly hurt. I think that was from the thigh shot.
Yeah.
Miss Smith said that no one left the apartment building between 12:25 a.m. and 12:45 a.m. The knife found in Miss Smith's yard had Mr. Scott's fingerprints on it. When police tried to locate Mr. Jones after the murder, they discovered that he had disappeared. Mr. Jones had told Mr. Kelly that he was going to kill him. The elevator operator said that Mr. Kelly's wife frequently left the building with Mr. Scott. And then Mr. Kelly's bloodstains were found on the carpet in the hall outside Mr. Jones's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so if it's found outside his apartment, he was definitely shot by him, so. We really established that, but
Yeah.
he was shot by Mr. Jones.
Mm-hmm. You're shot by Mr. Jones in the thigh, according to yours, right?
Yeah.
So was Mr. Scott trying to frame Miss Smith then by
Yeah,
putting
that's
the
what I'm
knife
trying
with
to-
his fingerprints in her yard?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, cause why would the knife be in
Yeah.
her yard? Cause she was just a bystander.
Well, maybe they're just getting rid of the murder weapon. Yeah.
She was in the lobby when he was killed though.
True.
She was in the lobby when the guard went off duty and the elevator man went off duty at 12:30.
I think.
So she couldn't be involved with the murder.
I don't know.
So I guess Mr. Scott tried to frame Miss Smith because she often follows Mr. Kelly.
Yeah.
True.
So
Okay.
He's definitely the murderer then.
Okay.
I would say so, he's definitely the
Yeah.
murderer.
Pretty convinced. Okay. So let's put that.
And there was only 2 weapons. The gun just wounded him because the elevator man said he didn't look badly hurt, and there was a knife.
Oh, and maybe, cause the bloodstains were found in Mr. Scott's car, maybe he was trying to get rid of the body and that's why he took it to the park. So like
Oh, he
maybe
took the
he
body to
drove,
the park.
well, cause
Took
the
the body
body
to-
was found in the park.
Oh yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Body was found in the park. That's why they dragged him the long distance. They put him in
Yeah.
the truck, his car.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they said in his condition it looked like his body's dragged a long distance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so knife. Right?
Yeah, the place of the murder had to be the room, but the motive though, that's the thing.
Yeah. Place of murder, Mr. Scott's room.
Mhm.
Okay.
And he was stabbed in the back.
Okay.
And his wife disappeared too, so I guess she didn't really care about Mr. Kelly.
Yeah. I'm thinking.
So Mr. Scott and Mrs. Kelly had to, like, she was in the room too? Or?
Yeah. Well, it says she went up. One of ours. Someone's like.
Mr. Kelly's wife went to Mr. Scott's apartment at 11:30 p.m.
At 11:30.
11:30.
So 11:30 p.m. she's there. 11:55 he goes to Mr. Jones's.
Okay.
12 o'clock gets shot.
Okay. Then at like 12:15, then that's when the elevator man sees
12:15 the elevator man sees him, so he couldn't be killed by the gun.
No.
12:30 he gets killed. So I would say it wasn't fair. I guess.
Yeah. I think Mr.
Why would you be in somebody's apartment at 11:30?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
That's why he went
yeah.
to the
Yeah.
apartment.
Oh,
guess he
and then
found out.
He caught them, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Okay.
Miss Amy, do you know the answers for these or?
No,
Wait.
I'm not the researcher.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, I think he caught them in the act or something,
In the
maybe.
act.
Yeah.
Or maybe he
It would
caught.
make more sense that he like killed, or maybe it was like self-defense or something. I don't
Mhm.
know because he had more of a motive for being like Mr.
Yeah.
Kelly had more of a motive for being angry at him, but
Okay.
maybe it was like unintentionally, like or like a scuffle or something. I don't know.
And then you got 7 back.
Okay. So is that what we want to put for the motive?
It makes sense though because his wife disappears with the other people.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean,
What
why
if
would
it's
she
like
go?
something crazy, like
We know
he
Mr.
kills them both? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Mr. Jones had his reasons, and we know, and he wanted to kill him, but he wasn't the
Yeah.
killer. So he had his reasons,
Yeah.
and just those two together just make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, why would she be in his room at 11:30 outside of like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he went up to his building.
But the motive, though, what is the motive for the murder?
Trying to hide.
Maybe they were having an affair, and he caught them,
And he got him.
and murder.
I don't know. I think that's I would go with that. Elevator man off duty. Yeah, my facts just lead up to this motion of Mr. Jones.
Mm.
Okay. So I think. So just put affair,
Mm.
and he caught them. Oh.
Was there a time where Mrs. Kelly left a place, or anybody has to go for that?
Yeah, nothing. Outside of the police, it says Miss Smith said that no, not that one. The elevator operator says that Mr. Kelly's wife frequently left the building with Mr. Scott. That's the only thing I have on her.
Yeah. All right. So what are
Yeah.
all the clues we have on her? So that's one. She left with Mrs. Scott
A
frequently.
lot.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The night that he died, she was in Mr. Scott's room at 11:30.
And they left frequently. So those are the only 2 clues we have.
Well,
on
I
her.
was just saying, like, typically they leave together, so
Yeah.
like they're
Put together.
on any given day. We're never really given any indication that she left the apartment.
Wait, what time did she go to his apartment?
11:30, right?
Oh yeah, 11:30. Oh, that was mine. Okay,
Mhm.
just making sure.
So those are the only 2
Yeah.
clues. So you can put those together, and they were obviously had something going on, I think.
Okay.
Mr. Jones disappeared because he missed.
Maybe he was
So
worried.
He didn't, I guess he didn't disappear with them, I think he just fled,
Yeah.
and those two just disappeared because, you know, I guess Mr. Scott killed them and then said, oh, I just killed your husband, so we gotta go.
Okay. So is that what you want to put for motive?
That's what I would put.
Okay.
I don't wanna
so,
overthink it and start
like second guessing it.
second guessing it,
Alright, so
cause it states it pretty obvious
I
with
guess
these clues.
so the answer is Mr. Kelly's wife and Mr. Scott were having an affair and he caught them or something like that. I don't know, maybe rephrase it a little bit more eloquently.
Motive for the murder, caught in an affair. Mr. Scott was caught in an affair.
Would you think it would be like an instance of self-defense, or because like I don't really see a clear motive on his part?
He probably got mad and they were like fighting,
I mean,
Or,
cause I'd get mad, I mean,
yeah.
you know.
yeah, maybe it was like a
But then there's no reason to like stab him from the back.
I mean, my mind said maybe he did like sneak up on it. I mean, because it's not like
The knife, they found fingerprints on the knife.
Yeah.
on Mr. Scott's.
So
Yeah.
he had the knife in his hand
Yeah.
and he was stabbed in the back. But the motive, that's really
Maybe they were
Yeah.
planning on running away together.
Yeah, maybe they left the building frequently.
Maybe
His apartment, so they're probably scheming it.
I'm sure there have been murder mysteries in real life where like
There's no
the
reason to
spouse
like.
plans
yeah.
in some way to murder their
I know actual murder cases. I know people that their wives planned it out.
yeah.
She's doing a lot of time.
But it definitely wasn't Mrs. Kelly, right? Who killed him.
Well, it says Mr. Scott's fingerprints were on the knife, so I'm gonna go ahead and
Yeah.
assume that he's the
I don't
one that
wanna,
stabbed
I don't
him.
wanna overthink it.
Stabbed him.
Yeah, it's probably too complicated to overthink.
Okay, so Mr. Kelly.
Oh, so if we're ready to know the murderer, I guess you can just put affair for motive for the murder.
Yeah, so the Mr. Scott was having an affair with Mr. Kelly's wife, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's only one right answer. Let's see.
Do we get to actually know what?
I want to know.
I want to know too.
That's the only one I'm a little iffy on. The last one. Cause that's you have to piece by piece. You have to put it to piece.
Okay.
You guys done?
Yes.
Okay, let me shut off this thing.